Hi everyone, you're welcome back to the channel. My name is Sarah. On today's video, we'll be cutting and sewing this beautiful waistcoat. I made use of 1 yard of Ankara fabric. And I would advise when you want to make yours, on the button allowance, you should put air stay or paper stay so that when you're creating your buttonhole, it will be very neat. So guys, let's jump right into it. To cut the waistcoat, I came down by 1 inches for my startup line. This will be the shoulder. Then I came in by 1 inches for the button allowance. 1 inches for the startup line, then 1 inches for the button allowance. Now the next we have to do now is to get the width of the neckline. For my button allowance here, I will come in by 3 inches. That's the width of my neckline. Next I have to do now is to get the depth of the neckline. I'll be making use of 9 inches for the depth of my neckline. You connect it to the button allowance. You can see the way I connect it. It came out from the button allowance. And the next we have to do is to get the shoulder. The shoulder I'm working with is 14. 14 divided by 2 will give me 7 inches. Because this is harmless, I will maintaining my 7 inches. I'll come down by 1 inches for the shoulder slope. I'll connect this 1 inches mark to the width of the neckline. After dividing my bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5, I have 7.5. But because this is a harmless, the waistcoat is harmless, I'll make use of 7 inches for the armhole. I moved half inches from the armhole. I don't want my bust to be showing, so that's why I'm making use of 7 inches. Then I'll check what I have from the startup line. I have 8 inches. So now I'll connect this line together. After getting your chest line, now you have to get from shoulder to bust point. Shoulder to bust point 10 inches. Then I'll get shoulder to waist. Shoulder to waist I'm working with is 16 inches. So now I'll connect these lines together. So after connecting the lines together, now I'll bring down my shoulder measurement down to the chest line, which is 7 inches, and mark. Connect the straight line. So now I'll divide this line we have here, this straight line, by 2. 7 divided by 2 will give me 3.5. So now I'll mark here. Then I'll come in by half inches for the armhole shaping. Then I'll connect with the straight line first. And I'll finish up with my French curve. I'm through the connecting of the armhole. Now the next we have to do now is to come down from the waist by 2 inches. I don't want this waistcoat to stop at my waist line. I want it to be like the length of the waistcoat should be 18 inches. So from the waistline, I will come down by 2 inches and I will mark. So now this is the top length. Now the next we have to do is to drop down the nipple to nipple measurement. So on the bust point, I'll put down my nipple to nipple, which is 4 inches. Then on the waist, I'll put down 4 inches. And on the top length, 4 inches. Now connect this line together. So now on the top length, here, I'll open my dart on half inches. I'll come down from the bust point by 1 inches and mark. So now I'll connect the dart legs together. After connecting the dart legs, now we have to divide the bust measurement. The bust I'm working with is 36. 36 divided by 4 will give me 9 inches. I'll put down my 9 inches on my chest line. Then on the waist, I'll divide my waist by 4 and I will add my dart intake. The waist I'm working with is 31. 31 divided by 4 is 7.75. So here I'll put down 7.75. And I'll add the dart intake. What I have here, I have 0.75. I'll add it back to the waist. Now what do we have here? We have 8.5. On the top length, I will just come out a bit, like I will just make it 9 inches. So now connect from bust to waist, then waist to the top length. You see the bit slant. not just straight down. So now the next we have to do now is to drop down the bust. For the bust that I'll be making use of 2 inches, I'll put down 2 inches here. I'll connect it back to my nipple to nipple point. Okay, that's for the bust dart. Now the front will be having a princess dart, so I'll just make use of my French curve this way. You know, we've already divided the armhole. I'll just make it sit this way and I'll connect it back to the nipple to nipple point. I'll come out by 1/2 inches here. Now this will be the new armhole. I'll make use of my curve to get the new armhole. We're almost done. The next we have to do now is to come from the center front by 3 inches. I came in by 3 inches here and I will mark. I'll come down by 4 inches for the front and mark. This 3 inches mark, let's make it a straight line, straight down to these 4 inches I came down. Then I'll give it that curve we have on the waistcoat at the front this way. Then I will do the same thing also at the side. We have to bring down the darts we have here down to this line here. So I will do it this way. We have 4 inches. I'll come in also here by 4 inches and I'll mark. And I'll connect with a straight line. Now we'll connect the darts back down this way. We are done. Now I'll cut this out. So now after cutting, you fold in your bust darts this way. So after folding your bust darts, blend back this way. So after blending back now, you can see how it is. Now cut this out. I'm through with the cutting of the front pattern. Now we have to draft the back pattern. So for the back pattern, what I did is that on the center back, I came in by 1 inches. Then on this startup line, I used 1 inches. Then the next I did is to get the chest line. So for the chest line, I made use of 7 inches like we did for the front. Then the length of the back is 16 inches. You know the front is 18 inches. So now the back is 16 inches. Then for the width of the neckline, I made use of 3 inches for the width and 1 inches for the depth. Now we have to divide the armhole. I'll check what I have here. So now I'll divide my armhole by 2 and mark. After dividing my armhole, I will come in by 1/2 inches and mark. I'll connect with a straight line. I'll finish up with my French curve. After connecting the armhole, now the next we have to do is to get the nipple to nipple point. So for my nipple to nipple point, I'll be making use of 4 inches. From the chest line, I'll come down by 4 inches. Then on the waist also, I'll come down by 4 inches. I'll connect with a straight line. So now on the center back here, I will shape in my center back. I will come in by 1/2 inches here. Now I'll come down from the neck depth by 3 inches and mark. So now I'll connect this 1/2 inches to this 3 inches mark here. The next I have to do is to open up my darts. For the darts, I'll be making use of 1/2 inches. Here I'll come by 1/2 inches. I'll do the same thing also. Here also 1/2 inches. Then I'll come down by 1 inches from the chest line. So now I'll connect this dart leg to this 1 inches I came down here. Next we have to do is to drop down the bust measurement. For my bust measurement, I'm using 36. 36 divided by 4 will give me 9 inches. I'll put down 9 inches here. Then on the waist I'm working with is 31. 31 divided by 4 will give me 7.79. From this 1/2 inches I came in, that's where I'll put down my 7.79. Then I'll put down 1 inches for the dart intake here. Connecting my bust to the waist this way. So we are done with the back. I'll cut this out. On my side back, I add 1 inches for seam allowance. Then the center back, you know this center back is not having a zipper. On the center back, I had 1/2 inches for joining the two backs together. Then for the hem of the jacket, I had 1/2 inches for turning allowance, the lining and the fabric. Then for my front pattern, on the center front, you know we have a button allowance already. Then on this side of the front, I had 1/2 inches for joining the center front to the side front. On the side front, I had 1 inches for seam allowance, and here also half inches for joining allowance. Now we'll separate the pattern papers from the fabric. After separating the paper, the next I have to do is to go and sew the back darts. So now I'll go and join the side front and the center front together. From the hem, you start joining from the hem of your waistcoat. Now this place I'm pinning down here, that's where I will sew on half inches. We added half inches for seam allowance, so is that half inches will sew down. When I get to this side of the princess dart, I'll curve it to the armhole here. I'll do this for this side of the front and the other side of the front, and I will give it a good press. I'm through with the sewing of my darts and I've given it a good press. Now I'll go to the sewing machine. I will join the center back on half inches. I'm through with the joining of the back and I've given it a good press. You can see I've pressed my seams open. Now we'll turn this to the front. So now I'll go to the machine. I'll be joining the waistcoat on the shoulder by half inches. You make sure the right side of your back and the right side of your front is together this way. I'll go and sew on half inches on the shoulder. I'll do this for this shoulder and the other shoulder. I'll do the same thing also on the lining. I'm through with the joining of the shoulder and I've given it a good press. It's always good to press your seams open. Now the next we have to do is to trim the front so it will be equal. Now you just trim this way. So now the next we have to do is to go and turn the neckline. We'll be turning the neckline first. I will start from this side of my front here, the neckline here. I will sew down to the other side of the front here and stop. After sewing, you turn it to the front to give it a press. So the excess of the lining, you sew it and trim it out. So now I'll go and sew the armhole on half inches. I'll do this for this armhole and the other armhole. Through the sewing of the armhole, what you have to do is to trim out and give the armhole a lunge. And I'll turn it to the front, then give it a good press. I'm through the turning of the waistcoat to the front, and I've gone ahead to sew the center front, which is where my button allowance will be. The next we have to do now is to turn the hem of the waistcoat on half inches. I'll go and turn the hem. You make sure the joining at the center front is together this way, and I will go and sew on half inches for this front and the other side. Then for the back also, I will make sure my darts are together. Then I will turn it on half inches also. I'm through with the turning of the hem of my waistcoat. You can see how it is. I've done the same thing also on the back. Now the next we have to do is to join the sides together. You know we added 1 inches for the seam allowance, but we're making use of half inches for joining because I want the waistcoat to have a bit of ease. I don't want it to be too tight. So I'll be making use of half inches to join the sides. Now we'll do fabric to fabric, lining to lining. I'll be coming in from this other side of my back this way, and I'll pick the fabric to fabric. You can see I have the fabric to fabric here. I'll draw it out from this side of the back. So now I'm going to start to join this from the hem of my waistcoat. Fabric to fabric, lining to lining. I'm through with the sewing of the side and I've given it a good press. On the lining, I mark where I will be losing. I will lose this side so it can give me access to get the knit finishing. I'll lose from here to here. Now I'll turn it to the front. I've turned it to the front. You can see how neatly finished it is. This is the lining. Now you lose that space, use and access the other side when you want to join it. I'll lose it out. To join this other side of the waistcoat, I'll be coming in from this seam I have here. I will make sure my hand can go through this way. You can see the way I'm doing it. Then I will bring it out like this. You can see the way I did it. Let's go again. So now the joining at the side for this other one, you make sure they are together. Okay, let's pin this down so it will be easier. I'll come in from this side. I'll make sure my hand can go through this way. Then I'll pick the fabric to fabric and bring it out from here. Now I'll go and sew on half inches round the sides. make sure the fabric to fabric is together and the lining to lining. I'm through with the joining of the sides. You can see how neatly finished it is. Now I'm going to use my hand needle to sew this place back, tack it in. Then I'll fix in my button and the buttonhole, then display this on my dress form for you to see. I'm through with the buttonhole and the tacking of the button. You can see how beautiful this waistcoat looks. Please don't forget to share this video with your soul friends. If you find it helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you get notified anytime I post a new video. Thank you and thank you very much. See you on the next one. God bless you.